So, okay, I think it does work. Can you hear me? Hear and see me? That's the big question. I do have Mohammed says, please talk about neutrophils. Um, let's see here. Yes, neutrophils. Okay, can you hear me, guys? I'm going to write down some of these questions. Okay, good. So you can hear me. Awesome. This finally works. This is good. Unfortunately, I'm not in my studio right now, but I'm at home. So I'm going to do it here. Uh-oh, someone said no, you can't hear me. Someone says yes and no. So can you try to let me know if you can hear me, guys, so I can make sure that we, okay, can see you now. Okay, good. Awesome. Welcome. Now, anything that I say is not meant to diagnose you or be a substitute for medical care. Check with your doctor before taking any of my recommendations. All right? So I'm here for your questions live as we get people jumping on. I want to talk about neutrophils because someone had a question. So what is a neutrophil? Neutrophil, excuse me, is what's called a phagocyte. What's a phagocyte? It's a cell that eats pathogens and microbes. So what they do is they protect you. They're the first line of defense in an infection. The problem with this COVID-19 virus is that it basically attacks the lung, and sometimes you get a flurry of inflammatory immune particles that could end up with a serious, if not fatal, lung infection. I'm going to cover that a little bit today. But neutrophils are the first line of defense, and you have two parts of the immune system. You have one part, first line of defense, which is called innate. And innate means that the cells, the immune cells, don't need to be trained. They already know what to do. Your mom gave you those immune factors, and you don't have to experience the environment to develop immunity or acquire immunity. So we have the innate, and then we have the adaptive or the acquired immunity system. So there's two systems. One is day-to-day basis. It kind of handles the first line of defense, and the second one is that it has to have experience. So it learns from running into microbes and then overcoming the microbe and then developing a memory to that microbe like a virus, and then now you have immunity against it. So one of the problems with something called a cytokine storm, which is a serious problem where someone that has a weakened immune system ends up having serious lung infection and inflammation. And most of that damage is coming from your own immune system. It's collateral damage because the neutrophils and the macrophages, which they're two little, actually the two big professional phagocytes that basically eat up viruses for lunch and they just protect you, they are going crazy and they're attacking. But there's the other system has this buffer or this inhibitory mechanism that kind of calms down the immune system. That gets broken. So now we have all attack and no counter calming the immune system down. And so really in a cytokine storm, you have an overzealous, excited neutrophil group and macrophages that are just creating all sorts of inflammatory things and dumping all their deadly weapons, chemicals that are destroying your own tissues. So neutrophil basically is a cell that engulfs and eats viruses and bacteria and fungus. And inside they actually can pour in their hydrogen peroxide. Believe it or not, the main chemical in bleach. They use that. They use enzymes to kill off these things. So they're short-lived, but macrophages actually live a lot longer. Okay, and I think you mentioned how to strengthen them. Well, zinc is the big thing right there. All right, good. So we're going to answer some more questions here. Oh, I almost got that question. I have to catch it fast. Let's see here. Oh, gosh. Good, I got one. It's like it's difficult to catch these questions. Okay, Ali Mohammed versus Muhammad Ali. Hello, doctor. I want to ask you about trace minerals. Would it make the skin stronger against microbial infections, like what causes acne? It's interesting you said that, because zinc does strengthen the connection between cells, epithelial cells, which is external and internal. So yes, it can strengthen, but if you're deficient in zinc, you'll get weakened cells like in your colon and your small intestine, and then that leaks. That's called leaky gut. So zinc is intimately involved in the binding of your cells to protect against the leaky thing. So if you are deficient in zinc and you eat a lot of gluten, for example, that can go into the immune system. Your body attacks it. You develop antibodies against it. You develop celiac. Now you have an issue with all types of bread. So yes, potentially it could, for sure. Okay, good. All right, doctor, I was wondering why I feel mentally and physically better when taking enzymes, and when I don't, I start feeling depressed and anxious. I eat 15 cups of vegetables or raw cooked per day. Well, it's a combination of things. I think that the more enzymes that you eat from your food, like in raw foods, I'm not talking about all raw foods, but some, the less your own pancreas needs to make enzymes. And enzymes are involved in biochemistry. They're involved in a lot of different processes, from allowing the digestive process to take place to helping with the various chemistry involved with everything from mood to physical exercise endurance to ridding lactic acid that builds up after you exercise. Like, just so many different things. It's crazy. So there's a couple of things that actually will make you feel better. Vitamin B1 is a good one, and it acts like a coenzyme. And there's also, like you're probably eating a lot of vegetables, you're also getting benefits of magnesium, which is a coenzyme involved in 300 enzymes. So it could be the minerals that you're needing more than anything else. Okay, so someone asked about G5. You can open up a can of worms with that one. Yes, I don't actually talk a lot about G5 simply because I will get, they'll shut down the videos. But I'll tell you right now, it's a big problem. We haven't done the testing. We're doing a huge experiment, and what it's doing to your cells is not good. This is another reason why the way to protect yourself is to get super healthy now. So whether there's a virus or there's EMF, electromagnetic energy, you're bulletproofed. You can withstand that. I am going to be doing videos on EMF testing. I have a lot of testers, and I want to help you to bulletproof your office. And like underneath my desk, I have all sorts of different protective barriers, because my computer's right down here, and it's a lot of EMF radiation, but also the cell phone right here. So there's a lot of simple things you can do to limit and minimize the damage control. Right now, it's pretty crazy out there, and I'm a bit concerned because of this lockdown, not just for the economy, but what happens, there's something called herd immunity, where you have 60% of the population that has been through a viral exposure, and then they develop the antibodies against it. There's a cell in part of your immune system called the B cells, and that's part of the adaptive part, which I talked about first, or it's called the acquired immune system. So it's like it takes a little longer to kick in, takes a week or two to kick in, and then it starts to make antibodies against the pathogen. They call it an antigen. So then you had to develop antibodies. So then the memory there is there, so the next time you're exposed to it, your immune system is ready to fight and take over and protect you. So herd immunity is where you have a large percentage of the population that are immune to it, okay? And then that way it slows down the spread. Because if you have a guy that's immune and you breathe on him, he doesn't get infected. So, of course, their solution will be, hey, yeah, wait, for the vaccine, we'll save you, we'll give you the vaccine, which you know how I feel about that. But the problem with the vaccine is even when they're going to actually come out with it, they say by the fall, I highly doubt it. It takes years to develop an effective, safe vaccine, and probably they're not going to do the testing. That's my opinion. They'll push it through for some reason, but it doesn't look good, guys. Okay, a few years back, around the same time that I started having gut problems related to eating wheat gluten, I also started having bad skin acne. Only thing that worked was cutting out dairy. Well, I think what happens when you get leaky gut, you don't just develop an allergy to gluten in grains, you develop an allergy to the protein in milk, which is casein. And that's probably what you're reacting to. All right, good questions. Here we go. Colloidal silver is awesome. I like it. It's a great antiviral. I used to recommend it for people that had Lyme disease, but I think it's good for a lot of infections and especially viruses. All right, here we go. But try to catch it. Let's see if I got something. I keep drinking 4 to 5 mugs of coffee each day. How can it affect my keto and I have performance? Caffeine sparks insulin. Well, it does if you have too much of it, because it actually releases cortisol and adrenaline. So now, cortisol and adrenaline, I'm trying to look for my book here, I don't have it, that breaks down your glucose and it spikes your blood sugars indirectly because of the caffeine. So try to push it down to 1 pot a day, and I'm being sarcastic, like one per day. I used to drink a lot of coffee, Cuban coffee, and I burnt out my adrenals, so I only do 1 small cup per day. Okay, Jenna Harris has a question. Can you please tell me about how to improve my skin? Wow, everyone's wanting to improve their skin nowadays. Chemotherapy did a number on my skin 5 years ago. Help. I tell you, there's a couple key nutrients that I would recommend relating to skin. One would be zinc and trace minerals. Of course, I'm not biased, but I recommend this. This is my zinc enhanced trace minerals. It has more zinc in it and other trace minerals, but if you take a look at zinc deficiency, you get all these like bad skin issues. And chemotherapy, a lot of sugar, antibiotics, a lot of medications deplete zinc, and then it's really hard to get enough zinc if there's damage in the system that can't let you absorb it, especially if there's gut damage. So you have to constantly eat foods high in zinc. The 3 foods that are high in zinc are number one is oysters. Okay, oysters. Number 2 would be red meat, and then cheese. Or you can just take a supplement. But that's what I would recommend. And also the B vitamins, and honestly, you need to do intermittent fasting as well and healthy keto. I think nothing's going to work unless you get in the basic eating plan, really. Okay, Chris C., when you go to the grocery store, buy fresh produce, how best to clean it? I would actually take apple cider vinegar, like probably 2 tablespoons in a little bit of water, and you can soak your vegetables, rinse it off, and that seems to be a good way to counter it. Okay? I'm really trying to catch one of the questions here that I can't read it, but it said something about Epstein-Barr virus, and I want to see what that says. Okay, I'll just have to try to catch it because it circles through. All right, so looks like we have 1,600 people on. That's awesome. I only have one thumb down. That's great. It's good news. Okay, good morning. A good diet to have cortisol levels low, and how to have testosterone. Oh, how to have testosterone being a woman. I can gain weight a pound a day. Okay. What happens as you cross over to menopause, and I'm assuming you are, I don't know, what happens is that you stop producing from the ovaries stop producing, and you start generating estrogen from your adrenals as well as your own fat. Both men and women start converting over because there's an enzyme called aromatase that converts testosterone into estrogen, and a lot of that happens to the fat cells. So the more fat you have, the more problems you're going to have with this. So you'll have more estrogen. So what you can do is you can take cruciferous vegetables. That will help to prevent that process because it has, like, there's a compound called DIM, which is a concentrated cruciferous vegetables, and you could a blend of cruciferous vegetables, and you take that, and that can actually lessen the amount of estrogen. I just did a video on that. I don't even know if I released it. I probably have to check. But testosterone follows the pathway of growth hormone. So that would be exercise regularly, good sleep, low sugar, moderate protein. And you're right, cortisol will inhibit that. So you want to have a cortisol. There's an acupressure technique that you can learn for free, and just go to Dr. Berg's webinar online on stress. Check that out. The other thing is that you want to go for long walks. You want to get into like gardening or get your attention off anything that stresses you, especially about now, and definitely don't watch the news because that cortisol will literally destroy your body. Another good thing to take is a good amount of vitamin E complex, the whole complex, both tocopherols and tocotrienols all together. That can actually help, especially if you're postmenopausal. All right. Okay, let's see. We got another question. And I'm going to go another 10 minutes, and I'm going to go right over to Facebook. And if you want to come on Facebook, you can do that as well. Doc, I have an emergency. MRI shows that I have low flow vascular malformations on my left knee. Do I need to consult from a doc soon, or can I wait until lockdown ends? I have inflammation but no pain. Yeah, that's a medical question. I can give you my 2 cents on that. I hope you're eating healthy. I would implement, regardless of what the doctor's going to do, I would implement the healthy version of keto with intermittent fasting because that's going to drop inflammation. So vitamin D and intermittent fasting is the best thing to do for the vascular system. So that's what I would do if I were you. Okay? I think I caught one here. Okay. How do I heal from AUD, from chronic pain? Metabolism has changed to burn alcohol, not ketones or glucose. Need a deep healing. Well, that's a good complex question. Honestly, I would definitely emphasize intermittent fasting and fast longer. I hope you're doing 1 meal a day. Because I think you need a good clearing, a good healing, and a good reset for your liver. But in the process, you're going to have to take and enhance your body with healthy nutrients, like in addition to it, especially things like milk thistle would be helpful. Dandelion greens and a salad would be very, very helpful, and stinging nettle root. And don't forget vitamin D as well. Okay, someone asked a question before I answer this question. What about heat, temperature, and the coronavirus? There's some great credible data. I'm not sure. Oh, I did a video on it that talks about an improvement in, or a decrease in viral loads as temperature increases and humidity increases. Some great data on that. You should watch my video on that. So my prediction is that as it gets warmer, things will improve. Okay. All right. So Christine says, I heard you not take silver if you have Hashimoto's. You know what? I don't have enough data to tell you yes or no. I'm sorry. I just don't know. One thing I do want to mention that's actually very, very, very interesting, guys. I'm going to be creating a video today that talks about a doctor in New York who's on the front line, and I don't know if you saw that video, but he found something very interesting about these patients. The ventilators they're giving people are not always the best thing in the world, because some of these patients have something very, very different than pneumonia, or even something called ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome. And so what happens is that if there's severe damage in the lungs, and the lungs are fragile, and you put a lot of pressure into when you ventilate someone, that can create more damage than good. And so, especially if they're going to induce, give you a medication to put you out, right? So think about it. Like here, you can't breathe, and you're gasping for air, and all of a sudden they sedate you. You no longer have that reflex to gasp for air. So you're like, now we have a severe hypoxia. And they're finding that it's creating some major, major problems. And so the doctor's trying to get the awareness up. And so he's trying to get other doctors to do it. And there's some recent data that shows that if you just turn down the pressure and turn up the oxygen, that would be a solution. So I'm going to create a video on that. But I want to tell you one more thing that I think is quite fascinating about that. One thing they found about this virus, and this is new data, is that it attacks the hemoglobin. The hemoglobin. That's interesting. And when it attacks the hemoglobin, it gets into the cell, and it creates a breakage of there's a little heme that holds the iron in it. It unlocks the iron, and so the iron disassociates from the heme. And what does that mean? It means that you're no longer able to carry oxygen. So here you are, you can't breathe. And that's what kills you. Not to mention, they found an interesting finding on CAT scans when they scanned the lung, which is a ground glass appearance. And that's probably occurring between a combination of hypoxia, low oxygen, and the release of that iron. That free iron is very oxidating to the tissues. It literally damages the membrane, it creates scar tissue, and it's like rusting out the inside of your lungs. So this is also correlates to hydroxychloroquine, which is an anti-malaria drug, because malaria, the parasite in malaria eats hemoglobin. And so now we have this drug, hydroxychloroquine. Guess what, guys? It actually has another function other than decreasing the. It increases zinc to break down the. I'll show you. Zinc inhibits the coronavirus. Okay. So there's a drug called hydroxychloroquine, which drives the zinc in the cell, and so the cell can't reproduce viruses anymore. So, but hydroxychloroquine has another function that I found. It actually protects the iron from being released from the hemoglobin. So that's important, because then you actually have more oxygen. So a lot of the doctors around the country, especially in New York, are using hydroxychloroquine, and it appears to be working. I'm going to do a video on that too, but this mechanism of preserving and preventing the iron from being released so you get less oxidation and more oxygen is fascinating. This is revolutionary because it goes beyond just the killing the virus. It actually can support the lungs. So that's exciting. Also, if you know of any doctors that are going to use it, make sure that they add it with zinc, because these patients are very depleted with zinc, and the whole goal is allowing the zinc to go into the cell to do its thing, okay? All right. All right. Hi, doctor. I have the corona symptoms for 15 days now. Most of the symptoms have subsided. However, I still get tight chest, shortness of breath, which I had for 10 days. Listen, the inside of the layer of your lung tissue, it's called epithelial cells, need more vitamin C, natural vitamin C, as an antioxidant to kind of counter the oxidation that's occurring. But if I were you, I would load up with zinc, vitamin D, get a lot of sun, and vitamin D, vitamin C, and zinc. Those are the three ones I think will help you greatly. Okay? That's what I would do. All right. Let's see what we got here. Is there any way for us women to regain the fullness of the Perkiness or our breast after breastfeeding at age 40, even a little? What you need to do is you need to, of course, do the usual. You know, the healthy keto and intermittent fasting. But as far as the breast tissue, you need to also make sure that you have enough fat in the diet to make your overall skin. It's not just water, it's like the fats, the healthy fats, essential fatty acids. So I would do omega-3 fatty acids. I would make sure you're eating foods high in vitamin E. I would make sure that you're on a healthy keto and doing intermittent fasting. That's your best chance to counter the breakdown. Okay. Should I be concerned? I don't know what that means, so. Boy, these, let me just try to catch these, see if I got it. Oh, got one. Yeah, it's like fishing. Are antivirals recommended safe for everyone? I have 2.4 white blood cells for the last 4 years, and no one knows why yet. Well, I think that a lot of people have these viruses that are in the background creating a lot of problems. So I would recommend some antivirals like garlic, oregano oil, colloidal silver, very effective, and zinc, of course. But realize too that many times with viruses, they create a suppression of your white blood cells. And so it's a matter of, you don't want to necessarily increase or decrease. You want to provide all the raw materials for your immune system to work to counter the viruses. So you got to look at the underlying cause. Okay, one last question here. All right, so, hi doc, could you address severe insomnia? I tried magnesium with no avail. I continue to take magnesium due to its benefits. I haven't had a good night's sleep in over 10 years. Wow. You know what? Watch my video coming up on reducing stress, because that will help extract stress from your body and help you sleep, because it could be potassium, it could be B1, it could be B1, it could be vitamin D. But if you actually watch my video on the stress webinar and do that technique, that will help you extract stress. Okay? All right, guys, and anything that I said is not meant to diagnose you or cure the coronavirus. These are just suggestions to support a healthy immune system. All right. Go over to Facebook, and I will see you over there. Have a good one, guys.